Oda, you broke our hearts! The darkest truth about the God Valley incident is finally revealed, and it is more tragic than you can imagine. We now know why Garp and Roger teamed up against Xebec and ended up killing him in the end. And man, I was not ready for this. It's too sad. Too sad. Alright, I'll get it together because we need to talk about this right now. You guys know the drill. If you enjoy our One Piece content and you want us to keep it going in the future, leave a quick like and comment on this video for that YouTube algorithm. And if you want to make sure that you won't miss future videos, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. So in the previous chapter, the absolutely epic God Valley Battle Royale, we saw Xebec trying to save his family by going all out fighting against Garling and the God's Knights. We also saw Dragon struggling to save at least Shanks from the Celestial Dragons after losing Shamrock to Maffy. Honestly, I thought that the juxtaposition of both Shanks and Teach being saved from the chaos of God Valley as small children at the same time was really interesting, especially now that we know how they both turned out, and how they eventually became two of the strongest pirates in the world, but also bitter rivals and enemies. And yet, their origin stories have so many similarities, it's really interesting stuff. Beyond the Teach and Shanks backstory, the previous chapter set up an extremely epic final showdown between the most powerful pirates in the world and Imu-sama, the secret ruler of the world. Imu finally appeared in the flesh at the end of the previous chapter, or I guess I should say, in the flesh of Saturn. The last chapter ended in absolutely incredible fashion as a fierce Xebec came out on top in his fight against Garling and his henchmen, and then he was actually backed up by his crewmates Whitebeard and Kaido in a rare display of Rock's Pirates' unity. We've been told over and over again that the Rock's Pirates were all just selfish opportunists, and that they would betray each other and even attack each other on a dime as long as they saw some advantage in it. And I mean, that is true to an extent. We even saw something like this very recently with Kaido attacking Big Mom in order to steal the Azure Dragon Devil Fruit from her and eat it himself. And yet now, in this incredibly hype moment, both Whitebeard and Kaido decide to stand with Xebec and to fight alongside him as he battles desperately to save his family. What's more, both the Roger Pirates and Garp and his Marines were outraged about what the Celestial Dragons were doing on God Valley. And they also seemed very ready and willing to put an end to the madness by force. So the previous chapter ended with the cards clearly stacked against the Celestial Dragons, and their last remaining hope was the appearance of Imu at the very end. When Xebec first sees Imu appear, he refers to the creature as the world itself. Perhaps because Imu is the embodiment of all the evil and tyranny that the world government and the Celestial Dragons represent. Or it could be a reference to the kind of creature that Imu really is, like a sea devil or something along those lines, or maybe even it's a reference to Imu's secret power. Either way though, this was a massively hype and absolutely fantastic way to end a chapter, and if you saw our video on chapter 1162, then you know that we kept wondering again and again, how can we possibly go from this setup, a setup in which Xebec is fighting to protect his family and Roger and Garp are both clearly on his side, to Roger and Garp suddenly teaming up against Xebec to ultimately defeat him and allegedly kill him, which is what we've been told will ultimately happen at God Valley. I mean, this is what we've been hearing from multiple sources for many years, and yet the more the flashback has progressed, the less likely it seemed that Xebec would find himself fighting against Roger and Garp. Actually, the exact opposite seemed to be the case. All three of them clearly agreed that the native hunting competition on God Valley is absolutely evil and despicable, and all three men were clearly determined to stop this evil from continuing. The latest chapter, chapter 1163, has finally answered the question of why Roger and Garp turned against Xebec on God Valley, and it is one of the most tragic events in all of One Piece, so even though it breaks my heart, we have to talk about it. The new chapter starts with Imu kind of manifesting his body on top of Saturn's, so it looks like a giant emu in the way we normally see him, or her, but with the legs and body of a spider monster. Imu is just hurling attacks at everyone without any regard for who is a pirate and who is a marine, and marines are definitely getting hurt in all the collateral damage. This once again shows us how much the Celestial Dragons and Imu, as their leader, really care about the marines who serve them. To the Celestial Dragons, the Marines are just worthless commoners, no better than pirates, and they have no problem discarding Marines like it's nothing. This is what makes it so crazy to think that Marines continue to serve such cruel and evil masters. and especially the really powerful Marines like Garp, the ones who could actually be fighting to topple the evil world government instead of serving it. Now, it's pretty much complete chaos on God Valley at this point. Some people are just running for dear life and trying to survive. Some pirates are still trying to grab treasure while also trying not to get killed in the process. And others like Xebec are actually rushing into the fray in order to face off against the giant evil monster that is Emu once and for all. The absolute Chad Xebec calls out Emu directly, calling him the king of rats, and saying, "You're here to kill me, aren't you?" Xebec shows absolutely zero fear in the face of such a giant, overpowered, demonic monster. And Emu says directly to Xebec, "It's you, Davy Jones." Xebec tells him he's got the wrong guy. Xebec is not Davy Jones, and he never even met Davy Jones, but as we know, Xebec is a member of the Davy clan, and so a direct descendant of the legendary Davy Jones. Because of this, it's definitely possible that Xebec resembles the original Davy Jones, and since we know that Emu has been alive for hundreds of years, maybe even thousands, it's almost certain that he came across the original Davy Jones at some point in the past, and so Xebec clearly reminds him of Jones. Now, even though Xebec is not Jones, he does say that there is a promise that he has to keep. Possibly a promise Davy Jones made himself to Emu many centuries ago. We've heard in the past that Xebec said that he would become king of the world, meaning that he intended to overthrow Emu and take his place as the ruler of the world. This could be what the original Davy Jones tried to do as well, which is why Xebec talks about keeping a promise in a moment such as this. For his part, Emu is outraged when he hears talks of promises, and he says that this is exactly why Xebec and his entire clan need to be eradicated and erased from history. As long as people like Xebec are still around, Mu's world is not yet completed. But Xebec responds to this by saying, "This world is not yours," and an epic battle between them begins. Around the same time, Garp is arriving at the scene of the main battle along with a group of Marines. Garp obviously knows that Emu is the bad guy here, especially after seeing him indiscriminately attacking Marines alongside the pirates. Now, some of the Marines with Garp are confused about whether or not they should get involved and on whose side. Garp does believe that they need to provide backup, but are they really allowed to provide backup to Xebec against Emu? Because yeah, Emu attacked the Marines without any good reason, but Emu is also the highest ranking celestial dragon in the world. So he is supposed to kind of be the commander-in-chief of all the Marines as well. However, there is a bit of a gray area here because Emu's existence is a strictly guarded secret, so there would not be any mention of Emu in any official Marine codes of conduct or rules or anything like that. So maybe if Garp just pretends like he has no idea who Emu is, he could get away with siding against him. Technically speaking at least, it may not be a direct violation of the rules, but we know that if he did that, he would still be in big trouble with the Celestial Dragons. Now, because God Valley is pure chaos at this point, as I already mentioned, not everyone is focused on the Emu fight. Some of the Roger pirates are still clashing with the Rocks pirates over who gets the treasure, and we see the treasure-obsessed Captain John reveal his devil fruit power. He actually possesses the Jiki Jiki no Mi, or the Magnet fruit, the same devil fruit that is currently possessed by Captain Kidd. Captain John uses the magnetic powers of this devil fruit to draw all the treasure towards himself, in an attempt to take them from the Roger pirates and any other competitor looking to get rich off of the God Valley loot. Gabon and Roger warn their comrades to protect their weapons, because Captain John's magnetic powers could snap up their weapons as well and leave them defenseless, which would be extremely bad in a chaotic situation such as this. For his part, though, Roger isn't very worried about Captain John, and he successfully resists the magnetic pull of the Jiki Jiki no Mi as he rushes to the main battlefield where Xebec is facing off against Emu. While Roger rushes off, Ganzui of the Rocks Pirates attacks Captain John with his own devil fruit, the same devil fruit that is possessed by Mr. 5 in the current era. This devil fruit is the Bomu Bomu no Mi, the explosive devil fruit that turns the user into a bomb human. Ganzui is able to use a powerful and strategically placed explosion from what looks like a small booger from his nose or something to take Captain John down. Now, as you remember from the last chapter, Dragon is still trying to get away from all the destruction and bring baby Shanks to safety, but he is caught up in the explosion that takes down Captain John, and he falls to the ground with Shanks in his arms and passes out. One of the treasure chests is also blown towards Dragon and Shanks in the explosion, and that is likely the treasure chest that baby Shanks ends up climbing into after Dragon is knocked out. And so this is the treasure chest where the Roger Pirates will eventually find him, and that is how Shanks ends up as a member of the Roger Pirates. Back to the main battlefield where Xebec and Emu are fighting, and we now see Garp arriving as well. But he is being pulled back by a bunch of the Marines who are terrified of what might happen if their leader decides to fight the secret ruler of the world government and the most powerful celestial dragon. They say, "No, Garp, don't do it. That is the highest authority in the world government." And the absolute badass Garp replies by saying, "What? That vermin?" Now that is the Garp that I want to see. After learning more and more about the God Valley incident, I was starting to think that Garp and Roger are not as awesome as we were led to believe, because they allegedly teamed up with the world government to defeat Xebec. But now we see that that is not exactly how it was, and we know that Garp would never have supported the human hunting on God Valley, and he never would have defended an evil vermin like Emu. As Garp arrives, Kaido is also there, ready to support Xebec and fight Emu, and that is when Roger shows up as well. Big Mom also appears, but her main concern seems to be to attack Kaido as revenge for stealing the devil fruit that she had wanted. Big Mom says that she's going to kill Kaido, but he just says, "Oh, are you jealous? Just wait until you see this." The next page features what many are calling the most epic double-page spread in the history of One Piece, and maybe in the history of manga. Some of the most legendary and powerful warriors in the history of One Piece, including Garp, Roger, Xebec, Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom, all attack the giant emu spider monster at the same time. Garp uses Galaxy Impact, Roger uses Kamasuri or Divine Departure, Xebec uses Pandemonium aka Curse Abyss, Whitebeard uses Hakua or Spacebreaker, Big Mom uses Ikoku Sovereignty, and Kaido uses Dragon. Well, the attack he uses is actually what we know today as Bolo Breath, but back then he didn't have a name for it, so he just called the attack Dragon, which is pretty funny, not gonna lie. All of these attacks land on Emu's giant body and absolutely destroy it, although Big Mom claims that she was actually trying to hit Kaido, but he dodged, so she attacked Emu by mistake. And yet, even after this absolutely unprecedented combo attack by some of the strongest warriors in history, Emu is still not defeated. Emu is able to quickly regenerate, and he then releases an absolutely huge wave of Supreme King Haki that straight up knocks out a ton of people throughout God Valley. But our boy Xebec is not knocked out or deterred in the least, and he continues slashing at Emu with his saber, cutting the villain's body to pieces over and over again. And yet, the monster that is Emu just continues to regenerate, and while he regenerates, he actually taunts Xebec. The monster says, "Mu can see your wife and son running through the forest," and this infuriates Xebec, and he says, "Don't you dare touch them." At this point, Emu's body is still cut into multiple pieces, but Emu manages to generate two dark tentacles out of the pieces of his body, and he uses these tentacles to stab Xebec. The monster had used Xebec's family as a way to distract him just long enough to land that extremely important attack. And this attack is indeed extremely important because, as Emu says to Xebec, Mu won't be doing anything to Xebec's family because Xebec will be the one who will wipe out his entire clan and annihilate his own wife and son. Xebec says that's absurd because he would never willingly harm his own family, and besides, the stabbing attack Emu landed on him is no big deal, it's like a mere mosquito bite. But that is when Emu's evil plan comes to fruition, and everything we know about what ultimately happened to Xebec at God Valley starts to make way too much tragic sense. Emu uses Domi Reversi, also known as Black Conversion Control, to turn Xebec into a demon against his will. Similarly to what happened to Dorian Brogy in the present timeline, and to the other members of the Davy clan in the last chapter. As Xebec begins to scream, the final panels of the final page of the chapter show a juxtaposition of two images. The first is Xebec's own face beginning to manifest demonic features, and the second is Xebec's wife and child running for their lives in the forest. And now it all makes sense, doesn't it? Why would Roger and Garp turn against Xebec and kill him when they were clearly on his side against Emu? Because during the battle between Emu and Xebec, Emu managed to forcibly turn Xebec into a demon. This means that Xebec is about to become more powerful physically, but also that he is going to want to do the opposite of what he really wants. So instead of wanting to protect his family, the demonic Xebec will want to hurt them, and someone will have to stop him, even if that means killing him. And that is why Garp and Roger will end up teaming up against him, not because they want to protect Emu and the Celestial Dragons, but because they want to protect Xebec's own family from his demonic self. Which is exactly what Xebec himself would want. He would want Roger and Garp to protect his family, even if that means that he himself would die. The tragic fate of Xebec was actually foreshadowed in the previous chapter when the other two members of the Davy clan, the ones that Aries refers to as Dad and Granny, are turned into demons and then compelled to attack Aries, Xebec, and their child. And just as we unfortunately suspected in our review of the previous chapter at around the 840 mark, this is the reason why the dynamic changes so suddenly on the God Valley battlefield, and why Xebec ends up dying at the hands of Roger and Garp. And man, that is so dark and so tragic, especially after we only just got to meet Xebec and got to see how freaking epic and cool he was. And the fact that he was actually trying to protect his family is such a great detail, because initially we were led to believe that this guy was just so evil, maybe even more evil than the Celestial Dragons themselves, and that is why everyone turned against him, but that was clearly not the case. This really breaks my heart because Xebec is a Chad and a true hero who deserved so much better, and Emu is just so freaking evil and irredeemable. Emu is truly a creature worthy of being called the devil. What do you guys think? Is this it? Is this the answer we've been looking for? The real reason why Xebec dies at the end of the God Valley incident? Let me know down in the comments. Man, Oda has really done it again with Xebec. Even though he was introduced so late in the story, he quickly became a fan favorite, and deservedly so. And I mean, the entire Rocks crew is easily the most interesting in all of One Piece. Their dynamic is so unusual and chaotic, with some of them only after treasure, others fighting for women, others fighting each other, and others still actually backing the leader when he needs it the most. And then the leader himself, who we were led to believe was like this evil, immoral guy, was actually fighting to protect his family. This is some absolutely excellent character work so late in the game. Kudos to Oda, he does not disappoint. I have to say that I freaking love this God Valley flashback so far. And honestly, after all the years of waiting and hoping and begging for a full flashback of the God Valley incident, I still can't believe that we are finally learning all of these incredible mysteries. If you've been watching our One Piece videos here on the channel, and especially all of the theory videos we made in the past, then you know just how much we've been talking about the importance of God Valley and how much we've been fantasizing about an epic God Valley flashback that reveals the truth about how Garp, Roger, and Xebec, and the strongest Celestial Dragons all found themselves in an earth-shaking battle royale that rivals the likes of Marineford. I've actually seen a lot of talk online about the potential for a full-length canonical God Valley movie that could tell the full story of the God Valley incident with incredible high-budget animation, and honestly, I think it's a great idea and I would love to see that. Now, I know that some people feel that no high-budget One Piece movie will ever be greenlit if Luffy is not the main character, you know, so they can use him for the promo material because he's the most recognizable and all that stuff, but hear me out. In the previous chapter, Saturn said he feels something new is being born on the island of God Valley right now, and the very next shot we saw was Kaido in his dragon form. But I think that Dragon Kaido's form at this specific point in time is actually meant to be symbolic. Because if you really think about it, another new dragon was actually born on God Valley that very same day. The legendary leader of the Revolutionary Army, the world's worst criminal, Monkey D. Dragon. This is the day he realized whom the Marines are actually protecting. The day he realized that the Celestial Dragons are pure evil and that revolutionary warfare against these creatures is the only way forward. So the thing is, a God Valley movie could actually include Luffy if it prominently featured Dragon's journey, and if it continued to follow Dragon after the God Valley incident, and then ends some years later with Luffy's birth. If the movie were to end with the birth of Luffy and Dragon vowing to make the world a better place for his son by overthrowing the world government, and if the movie were to reveal the true identity of Luffy's mom along the way, then I am 100% sure that this potential God Valley movie would be an absolutely insane success and make so much money globally, even if Luffy wasn't the main protagonist for once. What do you guys think? Would you want to see a full-length God Valley movie that expands on the incident even more? And do you think a movie without Luffy as the main character could ever get off the ground? For me personally, Xebec, Garp, Roger, Whitebeard, Young Shanks, and Teach, and all the other guys are star power enough, but that's just me. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like and leave a comment. It means a lot to me. And of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a future video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.